How should we assess Ryan Day in relation to the Michigan rivalry? It's no secret Michigan is 2-0 in the last 2 years. A lot of pressure on Ryan Day right now. I fully expect when these teams meet up again, the weekend after Thanksgiving, Nick Brake and I will be there in Ann Arbor. I also fully expect that by nature of Nick Brake and I both being there will be a lot on the line in that game. Could even go so far as to convince me that Ohio State and Michigan might both be undefeated, playing for a chance to go to the Big Ten title game, playing for a chance to then potentially go to the college football playoff. That's what history has been the last 2 years. So for Ryan Day, with all this pressure around him, I just think we need to walk this out a little bit more. If he beats Michigan this season, a lot of the volume on the Ryan Day naysayers gets turned down several notches, which is great, okay? And I think that's very much a possibility. I want to make it clear. I am not predicting this game right now, obviously. A ton's going to go into it. But I think we need to walk out the worst-case scenario. So Ohio State fans, bear with me here just a little bit. Let's say Ryan Day loses to Michigan for the third year in a row. What happens? I can tell you this much. Ohio State fans rightfully would be extremely upset, because he's not taking over this broken down car that he fixed back up to get to competing for a Big Ten title. No. Urban Meyer, before he passed the sticks, was 7-0 against Michigan. This thing was humming. If you're an Ohio State fan, you're saying we don't even know what losing to Michigan feels like. Okay? So to have it be the way it's been for the last couple of years and for it to be a third year in a row, you would have Ohio State fans getting out the pitchforks, getting out the torches. There would be borderline riots in Columbus. We were there last year when they lost in Columbus to Michigan, and it felt like a funeral. I tell you, it was extremely somber. It was one of the most eerie feelings I'd ever felt being inside a college football stadium, and that just speaks to what this rivalry means to both sides of that. Okay, this means a lot. We beat Michigan if we're Ohio State. However, I think there's more we've got to talk about with this. If you haven't yet subscribed, love to have you a part of this. College football content every single day. Live tomorrow morning. Ohio State fans, follow me on Twitter and Instagram because you're going to want to know who's on tomorrow morning. We got a very special guest for you, an Ohio State-centric guest. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so like I was saying, people are upset because you recruit really well. You have the better ingredients in comparison to what Michigan has. It's not dunking on Michigan. I'm just saying if you're Ohio State, you compete with the best of the best, so your personnel just straight up, in terms of stars, you got more stars than Michigan does, right? In terms of stars next to their name out of high school. You got better ingredients you're working with. So if they were to lose to Michigan, there would be a ton of blowback. Like I said, it's probably fair. What I think we need to consider, though, is Ryan Day is still figuring this out. I was having this conversation with someone from Letterman Row earlier this week. Ryan Day has never been a head coach before. I made the comparison in a different video. It's like if you were a really good musician and you've been playing dive bars, you've played a couple of local venues. That's great. Again, you're a talented musician. You're putting on a good show. But then somebody comes out and finds you and says, you know what? We want you to play your first act as a professional musician, Grand Ole Opry. Biggest stage, biggest spotlight. How many of you know there would be some growing pains? That would be uneasy. That would be unnatural. That's not a natural progression from playing dive bars to then playing the Grand Ole Opry that next weekend. That's the equivalent of Ryan Day's career. He didn't get the luxury of figuring out a group of five school or grinding his way to the top as a head coach at a program that wasn't quite as much in the spotlight as Ohio State. There is pressure, there is expectations that come with being the head coach at Ohio State. And Ryan Day has earned that pressure. Like I said, he's been one of the best coaches in the country over the course of the last several years since he's taken over the job. 45-6. It's a pretty good record. A lot of coaches, a lot of programs would trade their left arm and whatever academic building you want to talk about to have that record for their football team. Ryan Day is a good football coach. If they don't beat Michigan, I think we need to sort of be upset. You can very much be upset. Two things can be true. You should beat Michigan if you're Ohio State based on what you have in the cupboard. Ryan Day is also still one of the best head coaches in college football. Because here's my question to the fire Ryan Day crowd. I think that's nonsense, first of all. You can be upset. That's nonsense to say fire Ryan Day if they were to lose a third time in a row. Who else is walking through that door? Who else are you going to go and grab to be your next head coach if you go ahead and kick Ryan Day out the door? short of Urban Meyer, I don't see anybody else that you could somehow talk into being the head coach that would do a better job than Ryan Day. He's progressing. He's passing off the offensive play calling to Brian Hartline. They're going to break in a new quarterback. Whether it's Devin Brown or Kyle McCord, they're going to have some five-star playing quarterback. Surprise, surprise. How you get done? How you get down if you're in Columbus, Ohio. That's how they do things over there. There's a lot still to be excited about if you're an Ohio State fan. I'm not telling you you're losing to Michigan. In fact, today I would imagine Ohio State's probably favored against Michigan, even with what Michigan did the last couple of years. I'm just telling you, in relation to this rivalry with Michigan, you need to beat your rivals. That's the standard. In college football, any program, you got to beat your rivals, one of the key metrics. But we need to widen the scope a little bit in the context of how we evaluate Ryan Day. Kirby Smart, just so we're all on the same page, we were all saying he couldn't win the big one, right? Kirby Smart can't win the big one, not an elite head coach. He's good, but is he great? He's not Saban level. Back-to-back national titles the last 2 years. Took him 6 years to get there. Didn't win one until his 6th year. Ryan Day is going into his 5th year. You look at the sample size, look at the records between Kirby Smart and Ryan Day. They are very, very similar, both right around 40-ish wins. There's some discrepancy there because of the COVID year the Big Ten had, but right around the same win percentage through 4 years. Both played for a national title in year 2. Both lost it. And I get Ryan Day took over Ohio State when it was a Death Star. I think it's still a Death Star. I don't think Ryan Day deserves any sort of hot seat kind of talk. There can be pressure, there can be frustrations, there can be criticism, all warranted. When you don't beat Michigan, that's the reality, all right? You got to face the music. But let's pump the brakes a little bit on the Ryan Day talk. But again, we'll talk about this game when it gets here. Make sure you're locked in here. I fully expect Nick Brake and I to be in Ann Arbor when the Buckeyes and the Wolverines get ready to get it on and popping. Likely, you would imagine, for a Big Ten title ticket. So lock it in right here. Again, special guest tomorrow morning. I'm telling you, going to have him on the live show. Going to be a whole lot of fun. Ohio State faithful. Not going to want to miss this. Make sure you're subscribed. Following me on Instagram and Twitter at JD Piquel. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep the party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.